Ava couldn't believe what her eyes were seeing. Two men stood in the empty lot behind the warehouse, lowering something into a hole in the ground. Something wrapped in plastic. Something shaped like a person. A body. They were burying a body. Her foot caught on a broken bottle. Glass skittered across wet concrete. All three men turned toward her. Ava ran. Rain slammed against her face as she sprinted through the alley. Her worn sneakers slipped on the wet pavement. Behind her, footsteps pounded. Heavy, fast, getting closer. She was almost at the main street. Almost safe. Almost. A hand grabbed her arm and yanked her backward into the shadows. "Please," Ava screamed, thrashing against the iron grip. "Please let me go. I swear I didn't see anything. I can't see. I'm blind." The hand didn't release her. "No, funny?" The voice was low, deep, dangerous. "For someone blind, you sure can run fast." Ava's heart hammered against her ribs. "I have good instincts." She forced herself to stare into the general direction of his face, keeping her eyes unfocused, trying to look convincing. Trying to look like someone who couldn't see the massive figure looming over her in the darkness. "I didn't see what your men were doing," she continued, her voice shaking. "And I can't even see the color of the coat you're wearing." The man laughed. Not a warm laugh, not a kind laugh. A laugh that said he'd caught her in something. "Oh, and how did you know they were male?" His grip tightened on her arm. "How did you know I'm wearing a coat?" Ava's stomach dropped. Stupid. So stupid. A blind person wouldn't know those things. Yammer, a blind person would describe sounds, sensations, smells, not visual details like gender and clothing. She'd just exposed her own lie. I just assumed," she stammered. "Your voice sounds like—" "Stop." She stopped. In the dim light from a distant street lamp, she finally got a clear look at him. Massive build. Not just tall, but thick with muscle. Long locks pulled back from a face that was all hard angles and sharp edges. Gray eyes that seemed to see straight through her lies. And in his hand, a gun. Those gray eyes were red-rimmed, swollen, like he'd been crying. Why would a man with a Gion be crying? "You're coming with me," he said. It wasn't a question. "I can't," Ava blurted. "I have work. I'm already late. My boss is going to fire me." The man stared at her like she'd grown a second head. "You just saw men burying a body, and you're worried about your job?" "I didn't see anything. I'm blind, remember?" She lifted her chin defiantly. "And yes, I'm worried about my job. Some of us have rent to pay." For a moment, something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe? Or amusement. "Where do you work?" "Crescent City Diner, on Chupitula Street. And if I don't get there in the next 20 minutes, I won't have a job to worry about anymore." He studied her for a long moment. Those gray eyes taking in everything. Her damp uniform peeking out from under her jacket, her worn sneakers, her stubborn expression. "Fine," he said. "I'll take you to work." "You'll what?" "I'll take you to your job. You can pour coffee, and I'll figure out what to do with you." Before Ava could respond, he started walking, pulling her toward a black SUV idling at the curb. "Wait, wait!" She stumbled after him. "I can just go by myself. You don't have to—" He stopped, turned. Those gray eyes pinned her in place. "Let me be clear about something." His voice was quiet, calm, somehow more terrifying than if he'd shouted. "The men back there, they saw your face. By now they've already made a phone call. Within the hour, people will be looking for you." Ava's blood turned to ice. "Don't bother trying to call the police," he continued. "The people I work with have eyes everywhere, including the department. You make that call, you'll be dead before sunrise." He paused. "And so will anyone who tried to help you." "You're lying." "Am I?" He tilted his head. You want to test it? Go ahead. Call the cops, see what happens. Ava didn't move. She wanted to believe he was bluffing. Wanted to believe that the police, that someone, could help her. But she'd grown up in the 7th Ward. She'd watched her grandmother get harassed by debt collectors who had friends in the department. She'd filed reports that went nowhere. She'd learned, long before tonight, that police didn't help people like her. They helped people like him. Get in the car. She didn't ask how he knew her name, didn't have the energy to be surprised anymore. She got in the car. Ava just got caught in the worst lie of her life by a man with a G-on and tears in his eyes. Comment, she's cooked if you think there's no way she's getting out of this. And if you're already wondering why a killer would be crying over the person he just buried, you might be onto something. Like and subscribe because this story is just getting started. But how did Ava end up in that alley in the first place? Let me take you back. A few hours earlier, Ava worked 2 jobs because poverty didn't believe in days off. Mornings belonged to Beignet and Brew, a coffee shop in the quarter where she'd been the baker for 2 years. She made croissants and pain au chocolat and delicate French pastries that tourists inhaled without looking up from their phones. It wasn't the dream. The dream had been culinary school. Pastry arts, French techniques, the kind of work that made people close their eyes on the first bite. But tuition cost money, and money was something Ava never had enough of. So she baked for tourists instead, and she was damn good at it. Nights belonged to the Crescent City Diner, 8 to 2, unserving drinks and coffee and clearing plates for tips that barely covered her bus fare. 2 jobs, 16-hour days. Just enough money to stay one step ahead of the debt collectors who called about her grandmother's medical bills. This was Ava's life. Exhausting, relentless, and completely her own. She'd made peace with it, mostly. The night everything changed started like any other. Ava caught the 7:45 bus toward the diner, already tired, already dreading 6 hours on her feet. Then the bus broke down. Just stopped moving in the middle of Magazine Street like it had decided life wasn't worth living anymore. The driver shrugged, actually shrugged, and told everyone to call a rideshare. Ava looked at her phone. Her bank account had $23.47. A rideshare would cost at least $15. She started walking. And Miss Alice had a 3-strike policy. Ava was on strike too. Being late again meant losing her job, and losing her job meant losing her apartment, and losing her apartment meant... She didn't let herself finish that thought. When she saw the alley, the shortcut that would save her 10 minutes, she didn't hesitate. That was her first mistake, and now she was being dragged towards a vehicle with a man that looked like he could send her to heavy with one squeeze. The SUV was obscene. Black leather seats softer than anything Ava had ever owned. That new car smell mixed with something woodsy and masculine. Tinted windows so dark she couldn't see the city passing by. A privacy partition separated them from the driver, a shorter man with a shaved head and a gold tooth that glinted when he glanced in the rearview mirror. Ava pressed herself against the door, keeping as much distance between herself and the gray-eyed man as physically possible. He noticed, shifted to give her more space. She noticed that he noticed. "Stop looking out the window," he said. "I'm not... You're supposed to be blind. Blind people don't watch the scenery." Right, the lie. She was supposed to be maintaining the lie. Ava fixed her gaze forward, unfocused, staring at nothing. "I wasn't watching the scenery," she said. "I was listening to the rain. The rain stopped 10 minutes ago. I have a delayed reaction." Silence. Then, "You're a terrible liar. And yet I'm still alive. So maybe I'm better than you think." He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Hard to tell. "What's your name?" he asked. "You look like you could find out yourself." "True, but I want to hear you say it." "Why?" "Because I asked." Ava weighed her options. Refusing seemed pointless, he already knew. And maybe if she cooperated a little, he'd let his guard down. Ava Ring. Ava Ring, he repeated, like he was tasting it. That your real name? No, I made it up just now to impress you. Another almost laugh. You've got a mouth on you. The SUV turned onto Chupatula Street. Through the windshield, because she'd given up pretending not to look, Ava could see the diner's yellow glow. What's your name? She asked. He was quiet for a moment. Gray. Gray what? Just Gray. The SUV stopped. Gray got out and came around to her side, opened the door, didn't offer his hand. Ava climbed out, making a show of feeling her way, of being uncertain. Method acting. She could do this. I'll be watching, Gray said. From where? He nodded toward the SUV. For how long? Until your shift ends. That's 4 hours. Then I'll be here for 4 hours. Don't you have murdery things to do? Bodies to bury? People to threaten? Those gray eyes held hers. You're my priority right now. Something about the way he said it made her stomach flip. She ignored it. Fine, watch all you want. I hope you get bored. She turned and walked toward the diner. Ava. She stopped. Remember what I said. No police, no phone calls. Just pour your coffee and pretend to be blind. His voice dropped. I'll know if you try anything. How? I just will. He got back in the SUV. Ava stood on the wet sidewalk, heart pounding, and wondered how the hell she was going to survive this night. The bells above the door chimed. Miss Alice looked up from behind the counter. 62 years old, silver-streaked hair pulled back tight, reading glasses perched on her nose like a permanent judgment. You're late. I know, the bus. I don't want excuses. I want punctuality. Her eyes narrowed. Why are you walking like that? Ava froze. She'd been shuffling, feeling for obstacles, moving like someone who couldn't see. Walking like what? Like you're drunk or lost. Miss Alice crossed her arms. I'm just tired. Tired doesn't make you bump into chairs you've been avoiding since your first shift. Ava grabbed her apron, her mind racing. This was harder than she'd thought. Way harder. Get to work, Miss Alice said. Tables need clearing, and walk normal for God's sake. Normal. Right. Just act normal while pretending to be blind while being watched by a probable murderer. Simple. The next hour was a disaster. Ava knocked over a salt shaker, spilled water on a customer, nearly walked into the kitchen door because she was trying so hard to look like she couldn't see it that she actually didn't see it. Every few minutes, her eyes darted to the window. The black SUV sat there, engine off, dark and silent. He was watching. She could feel it. Ava! She jumped. Miss Alice was standing right next to her. What is wrong with you tonight? Nothing. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're a mess. Miss Alice's voice softened slightly. Is someone bothering you? That man in the car. What man? Don't play dumb. The black SUV that's been parked outside since you got here. I've got eyes. Miss Alice leaned closer. Is he bothering you? Because I can call my nephew. He's a detective. He can… No. Ava said it too fast, too sharp. No police. Miss Alice's eyebrows rose. Why not? Because… Ava's mind raced. Because it's not what you think. He's just… someone I know. An ex. He's being dramatic. An ex who waits outside in a car for hours? He's very dramatic. Miss Alice didn't look convinced. Ava, baby, if you're in trouble. I'm not. I can help. My nephew knows people. He can… I said no. The words came out harsher than Ava intended. Miss Alice stepped back, surprise flickering across her face. I'm sorry, Ava said quickly. I didn't mean, it's just been a long night. I'm tired. He's nobody. Please, just let me finish my shift. Everything's fine. Everything was not fine. Everything was the opposite of fine. But Miss Alice just sighed. All right. Okay, but you better be careful. She headed back to the kitchen. Ava leaned against the counter, her hands shaking. That was close. Too close. At 10:47 p.m., the bells chimed. Ava looked up automatically, then remembered she wasn't supposed to be able to see, then looked anyway because what was the point anymore? Gray walked in. He'd left his coat in the car. Underneath, he wore a black sweater that clung to his massive frame like it was afraid to let go. Muscles strained against the fabric. His locks were damp, a few strands escaping to frame his face. He looked like danger wrapped in expensive clothes. He looked like trouble with a capital T. He looked, and Ava hated herself for thinking it, absolutely gorgeous. He buries bodies, she reminded herself. He has a gun. I stopped noticing his shoulders. Gray walked to the counter and sat down, right in the middle, right where she'd have to serve him. Coffee, he said. Black? Ava didn't move. Miss Alice appeared at her elbow. Customer, Ava, go. Ava approached the coffee station, making a show of feeling for the pot. Her hands were shaking. She reached for the handle and missed. Her fingers knocked the pot sideways. Coffee sloshed everywhere. Careful, Gray said mildly. I've got it. She grabbed a rag, fumbled with the pot, finally managed to pour something into a cup. Half of it ended up in the saucer. Oops. Oops? He raised an eyebrow. It happens. I'm blind. Yes. He picked up the cup, examining the mess. Fascinating how you managed to work here for 2 years without seeing. I'm very good at adapting. Clearly. She turned to walk away. Her elbow caught the sugar dispenser. Glass shattered. Sugar exploded across the counter. The crash echoed through the diner. Every head turned. For crying out loud, Miss Alice shouted from the kitchen window. What is wrong with you tonight? You're acting like a blind mouse. Gray's lips twitched. Isn't she supposed to be? He said. Silence. Miss Alice's face cycled through confusion, suspicion, and something close to alarm. Supposed to be what? Blind. Gray took a sip of his coffee, from the half that had actually made it into the cup. She mentioned it earlier, when we met. Miss Alice looked at Gray, then at Ava, then back at Gray. Ava, kitchen, now. The kitchen door swung shut. Yeah, Miss Alice rounded on her immediately. Start talking. It's not what you think. I don't know what I think. That's why I need you to talk. She crossed her arms. You told that man you were blind? Your ex? What are you playing at? Miss Alice. Is this some kind of sick game? Because I don't allow drama in my diner, Ava. You know that. He's not my ex. Then who is he? Ava opened her mouth, closed it. What could she say? He's a man who buries bodies, and I accidentally saw him do it, so now he's deciding whether to kill me? I can't tell you. Can't or won't? Both. Miss Alice's expression shifted. The suspicion melted into something softer, something like fear. Ava, she said quietly, what did you get yourself into? Before she could respond, the kitchen door swung open. Gray stood in the doorway. He filled the entire frame. Am I interrupting? Yes, Miss Alice said sharply. This is employees only. I need to speak with Ava. She's busy. It's important. So is this. Gray's eyes moved from Miss Alice to Ava. Something passed across his face. Calculation, assessment, and then he smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. You must be the famous Miss Alice, he said smoothly. Ava's told me so much about you. Has she now? She says you're like a mother to her, that you look out for your employees. He stepped into the kitchen. Miss Alice stepped back instinctively. That's admirable. Hard to find people who care these days. I don't know who you are. I'm a friend. You don't look like a friend. No. Gray tilted his head. What do I look like? Miss Alice didn't answer, but her hand was shaking. I just need to borrow Ava for a moment, Gray continued. Just a quick conversation. Then she can finish her shift. Everyone goes home happy. And if I say no? Gray's smile didn't waver, but something in his eyes went cold. Then I'd have to insist, and I don't think either of us wants that. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but clear. Miss Alice looked at Ava. Ava saw the question in her eyes. Do I fight this? Do I call for help? Ava shook her head slightly. Please don't. Please just let it go. A long moment passed. Then Miss Alice stepped aside. 5 minutes, she said, and then she's back on the floor. Of course. Gray gestured toward the back door. Ava? Ava followed him out into the alley behind the diner. The rain had started again. Light drizzle, more mist than actual drops. Gray stood with his back to the wall, arms crossed, watching her. Your boss is protective, he said. She's a good person. Good people get hurt when they don't mind their business. Is that a threat? It's an observation. Ava hugged herself against the cold. What do you want? I wanted to make sure you weren't doing anything stupid, making phone calls, sending texts, signaling for help. I haven't. I know. I've been watching. That's not creepy at all. His lips twitched. You're handling this better than most people would. I'm not handling anything. I'm barely keeping it together. Gray studied her for a moment. Then he reached into his pocket. Ava flinched. He paused. I'm not going to hurt you. People say that right before they hurt you. I'm not most people. He pulled out his phone. Not a weapon. Just a phone. My associates are getting impatient, he said, checking the screen. They want to know why I haven't dealt with you yet. Dealt with me? Their words, not mine. What does dealt with mean? He didn't answer. Didn't need to. I'm handling it, Gray continued. But you need to understand. After tonight, your life as you knew it is over. You can't go back to your apartment, can't come back to this job, can't contact anyone you know. What? No, I can't just disappear. You can, and you will, because the alternative is dying in that apartment with a bullet in your head. The words hit her like ice water. I'm offering you a way out, Gray said. 1 month, that's all I need. You come with me. You stay somewhere safe, and in 1 month, this will all be over. You'll be free to go wherever you want. 1 month? Doing what? Working, cooking. You're a pastry chef, aren't you? Trained at the Louisiana Culinary Institute before you dropped out. Ava blinked. How do you know that? I told you, I notice things. That's not noticing. That's stalking. Call it what you want. The point is, you're useful. The place I'm taking you, they need a cook. Someone who can make more than canned soup and frozen dinners. You want me to cook for criminals? I want you to stay alive. Cooking is the price of admission. Ava's mind raced. 1 month, 30 days of hiding, of pretending, of living among people who buried bodies in empty lots. But 30 days was better than dead. And after the month, she asked, you disappear. New city, new name, new life. I'll make sure you have enough money to start over. Why would you do that? Why won't you deal with me like they want you to? Gray was quiet for a moment. The man in that grave, he said finally. His name was Dante. He was my best friend, and I couldn't save him. His jaw tightened. Maybe I can save you. The raw grief in his voice caught her off guard. She wanted to ask more, wanted to understand what kind of man buried his best friend and then offered to rescue a stranger. But the back door opened before she could speak. Miss Alice stuck her head out. Your 5 minutes are up, she said pointedly. Ava, back on the floor, now. Gray nodded. We're done. For now. He walked past her toward the alley entrance, then stopped. Finish your shift. I'll drive you home. What happens after that is your choice. He disappeared into the shadows. Ava stood in the drizzle, shaking, wondering how she was supposed to choose between bad and worse. If you're already stressed about what's going to happen next, drop a "Protect Ava" in the comments. And if you're starting to think Gray might not be as evil as he seems, you might be onto something. Like and subscribe because we're nowhere near done with this night. The rest of the shift passed in a blur. Miss Alice watched her like a hawk, but didn't push for more information. The diner emptied out. The clock crept toward 2 a.m. When the last customer finally left, Miss Alice locked the door and turned to Ava. "I don't know what's going on," she said quietly. "And I know you can't tell me. But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll be careful. Whatever you're walking into, promise me you'll find a way out." Ava's throat tightened. "I promise." Miss Alice pulled her into a hug. Brief, fierce, full of all the words neither of them could say. "Go," she said, releasing her. "Before I change my mind and chain you to a table." Ava grabbed her jacket and walked out. The SUV was waiting. The drive to her apartment was silent. Ava stared out the window. She'd given up pretending to be blind, watching her neighborhood slide past. The bodega where she bought milk. The laundromat that was always broken. The corner where kids played basketball after school. Her whole life was here. Everything she'd built after losing her grandmother. Everything she had left. And she was about to walk away from it. You're quiet," Gray said. "I'm thinking." "About what?" "About whether I can trust you." Gray was silent for a long moment. The SUV stopped outside her building. Gray turned to face her fully. In the dim light, his face looked almost soft, almost human. "Get some sleep," he said. "Pack a bag. I'll be back at dawn." "What if I run?" "You won't." "How do you know?" "Because you're smart, and you want to live." He paused. "And because running won't save you, they'll find you. I'm the only chance you have." Ava wanted to argue, wanted to tell him he was arrogant and presumptuous and wrong. But he wasn't wrong. That was the problem. "Fine," she said. "Dawn, I'll be ready." She opened the door and climbed out. "Ava." She turned. His eyes held hers. "Lock all your doors tonight, just in case." That night, sleep didn't come. Then Ava sat on her bed, staring at her apartment. The water-stained ceiling, the radiator that clanked, the closet full of clothes from Goodwill, the kitchen where she'd taught herself to make croissants at 3 a.m. This place wasn't much, but it was hers. She didn't want to leave, but she didn't want to die more. She was beginning to feel sleep pull her exhausted body under when she heard a sound that made her freeze. A sound, soft, barely there, coming from the kitchen. Ava's heart stopped. She reached for her phone, fingers shaking, ready to call. Who? The police Gray had warned her about? Another sound. A scrape, metal on metal. Someone was opening the window. Ava grabbed the lamp from her nightstand, the only weapon she had, and pressed herself against the wall. Footsteps in the kitchen. Slow, deliberate. She's in the bedroom," a voice whispered. "Not Gray, someone else. Make it quick, we gotta be out before he realizes." Before who realized? Gray. The bedroom door creaked open. Ava swung the lamp. It connected with something, someone, with a sickening crack. A man cursed, stumbling backward. She saw a flash of a shaved head, a face twisted in anger, a Jian rising toward her. And then a shadow moved behind him. Gray. He grabbed the intruder from behind and slammed him into the wall so hard the plaster cracked. The Jian clattered to the floor. "Milo," Gray said calmly, "you're early." The intruder, Milo, struggled against Gray's grip. "Boss sent me. Said handle the witness tonight. I told him I had it covered. He doesn't trust you anymore. Milo wheezed. Says you've gone soft. Says... Gray tightened his grip. On Milo's words cut off into a gurgle. Tell the boss I'll deal with the witness, Gray said quietly. My way, my timeline. He won't. Tell him, or don't tell him anything. Your choice. He released Milo. The man dropped to the floor, gasping. Get out, Gray said. And if you come near her again, I'll end you myself. Milo scrambled to his feet. His eyes darted between Gray and Ava, terrified, furious, calculating. Then he ran. The apartment was silent except for Ava's ragged breathing. Gray turned to face her. Change of plans, he said. We leave now. Gray just saved Ava from a hitman, but now she's completely trapped. Comment, Gray's not a villain if you're starting to see there's more to him than meets the eye. And comment, don't trust him if you think this is all part of his plan. Unsubscribe and hit that bell, because next part is going to reveal secrets that will change everything. 20 minutes later, Ava sat in the back of the SUV with a duffel bag of hastily packed clothes at her feet. Her apartment was behind her. Her life was behind her. Everything she knew was gone. Gray had convinced her to leave her phone behind. They will take it from you anyway. Best to leave it behind. He had said he sat across from her now, his gray eyes fixed on the window. Who was that? Ava finally asked. Milo? A cleaner, someone who handles problems. And I'm a problem. You were, now you're an asset. How? Gray turned to look at her. You can cook. The compound where I'm taking you, they've been eating garbage for months. The last cook left under, unfortunate circumstances. Unfortunate how? You don't want to know. Great, she was replacing a dead person. The people at this compound, she said carefully. They're criminals? Yes. And you work for them? Yes. So, you're a criminal. Gray was quiet for a moment. I'm a lot of things. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have. The SUV turned off the highway onto a narrow road. Trees pressed close on both sides, draped with Spanish moss. Bayou country. 1 month, Ava said. That's what you said. 1 month, and I can leave. If everything goes according to plan, and if it doesn't, then we'll figure something out. That's not reassuring. I know. She wanted to push, wanted to demand real answers, real guarantees. But something in Gray's expression stopped her. He looked tired, exhausted, actually, like he was carrying a weight she couldn't see. The man who attacked me, she said quietly. He said the boss doesn't trust you anymore, that you've gone soft. Gray's jaw tightened. What did he mean? It means I've made choices some people don't agree with. What kind of choices? The kind that keep innocent people alive. Their eyes met. Something passed between them. Not trust, not quite, but something close. I'm not going to hurt you, Ava, Gray said. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. Then why am I so scared? Because you're smart, and being scared keeps you alive. The SUV slowed. Through the windshield, Ava could see lights ahead. A compound emerging from the trees, high fences, security cameras, armed guards, her new home. One more thing, Gray said. The Blindness Act. It won't work. No, you've already made too many mistakes. So, what do I do? Play deaf instead. Ava blinked. Deaf? You can see, you can work normally, but you can't hear. That means you won't react to conversations, won't respond to things you shouldn't know about. He paused. You took sign language in high school. How did you... Never mind. You've looked me up, haven't you? Exactly. The SUV stopped at the gates. Guards approached. One more thing, Gray said, his voice dropping. There's no separate quarters for women. You'll have to room with one of the men. Ava's blood ran cold. What? There's 12 bedrooms, all occupied by men. You'll need to share. Absolutely not. I'll sleep in the kitchen. I'll sleep in the car. Or you can room with me. Ava stopped. Gray's expression was unreadable. My room, my rules. Separate beds. You'll have privacy and no one will bother you. The gates swung open. The SUV rolled forward. Ava's heart pounded. Room with a man she'd just met. A man who buried bodies, who had a June, who terrified and intrigued her in equal measure. Or room with one of the others. Men who might be worse? Fine, she heard herself say. Your room. Gray nodded. If he was surprised by her answer, he didn't show it. Welcome to the compound, Ava Ring. Try not to die. Comforting. The main building was chaos disguised as order. Men everywhere. Big, armed, dangerous-looking men who stopped talking when Ava walked in. Eyes swept over her, curious, suspicious, appreciative. She felt naked, exposed, like prey walking into a den of predators. Gray's hand touched her lower back, brief, barely there, and she flinched away instinctively. He pulled back immediately. Sorry. She didn't answer. Couldn't answer. Her heart was racing, her skin crawling, every instinct screaming at her to run. She's deaf, Gray announced to the room. Can't hear a word you say, so don't bother. Deaf? One of the men, young, cocky, with a cruel smile, stepped forward. That's convenient. Very. It means she won't hear you crying when I break your nose. The man's smile faltered. She's the new cook, Gray continued. Anyone messes with her, they deal with me. Clear? Murmurs, nods. No one argued. Good. Gray turned to Ava. He signed slowly, exaggerating the movements. Follow me. I'll show you the kitchen. Ava nodded and followed, feeling every eye on her back. The kitchen was industrial, huge, stainless steel everything, commercial ovens, enough counter space to feed an army. Wasn't completely filthy. Dishes piled in the sink, food crusted on the stove, something that might have once been bread slowly petrifying in the corner. They haven't had a cook in 3 months, Gray said aloud, then remembered and signed it instead. Ava looked around at the chaos and fought back tears. This is my life now. By noon the next day, the kitchen was transformed. Ava had cleaned for hours, scrubbed every surface, organized every cabinet, took inventory of every ingredient. Then she'd started cooking. Croissants first. The dough had risen beautifully. The smell of butter and flour filled the compound. Men started drifting toward the kitchen, following their noses. What is that smell? Someone asked. Ava didn't react. Couldn't react. She was deaf, remember? Gray appeared in the doorway, and he signed, Need anything? Peace and quiet, she signed back, and real vanilla extract. This stuff is fake. His lips twitched. I'll see what I can do. He disappeared. The cocky young man from earlier wandered closer. Milo, she remembered. The one who'd tried to kill her. He picked up one of the croissants, took a bite, and his eyes widened. Holy shit, he said. This is actually good. Ava kept working, pretending not to hear. Milo stepped closer. Too close. Hey, he said. Can you hear me? She didn't react. He waved his hand in front of her face. She looked up, startled. Fake, startled, and took a step back. Relax, Milo said, smirking. I'm not going to hurt you, just wondering if you're really deaf or if this is all an act. He snapped his fingers next to her ear. Ava didn't flinch, didn't blink, didn't react at all. Milo studied her for a long moment. Then he shrugged. Guess you really can't hear. He grabbed another croissant. Good. I like a woman who can't talk back. He walked away laughing. Ava's hands shook as she went back to kneading dough. She'd passed. This time. But how long could she keep this up? That night, Ava stood in Gray's room and faced a new kind of terror. The room was sparse. 2 beds, one clearly used, one freshly made with sheets that still smelled like the package. A dresser, a desk, a bathroom through a door on the left, probably the one his partner used to use. "I'll take the bed by the window," Gray said. "You take the one by the door. If you need to leave in a hurry, you can." "Why would I need to leave in a hurry?" "You probably won't, but if you do, you can." He turned away and started unbuttoning his shirt, and Ava spun around so fast she almost gave herself whiplash. "What are you doing?" "Getting ready for bed." "You can't just—" "I'm right here. I'm aware." She heard the rustle of fabric. "I'm not going to attack you, Ava. I'm just changing my shirt." "You could warn me." "I'm warning you now. I sleep without a shirt. If that's a problem, let me know and I'll adjust." It was a problem. Everything about this was a problem. But Ava couldn't explain why. Couldn't tell him about the hands that had grabbed her when she was 17. Couldn't tell him about the foster brother who'd cornered her in the bathroom. Couldn't tell him why the sight of a man undressing, any man, made her want to crawl out of her skin. "It's fine," she said tightly. "Just warn me next time." Noted. She heard him move to his bed. The springs creaked. You can turn around now." She turned. He was under the covers, shirtless. She could see the massive shoulders and muscled chest above the blanket, but covered enough to be decent. "Bathroom's through there," he said. "Lock works. I won't come in unless you're dying." How reassuring. "I try." She grabbed her bag and fled to the bathroom. The lock clicked behind her, and she let out a breath she'd been holding for hours. Her reflection stared back at her from the mirror. Same face, same eyes. But everything else was different. She was in a criminal compound, pretending to be deaf, sharing a room with a man who terrified and confused her, about to spend a month of her life living a lie. What had she gotten herself into? She splashed water on her face, changed into the oversized t-shirt she slept in, and cracked the door open. Gray hadn't moved. His eyes were closed. She tiptoed to her bed and slid under the covers. "Good night, Ava," Gray said without opening his eyes. She jumped. "I thought you were asleep." "I'm a light sleeper. Survival instinct." "Great. So if I snore, you'll know?" "Do you snore?" "I don't know. I've never listened to myself sleep." That almost laugh again. "Fair enough." Silence stretched between them. "Gray?" "Hmm? Thank you for saving me, for all of this." He was quiet for a moment. "Don't thank me yet," he said finally. "We've got a long month ahead." Ava stared at the ceiling, listening to him breathe, and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Gray just saved Ava's life, set her up in his own room, and promised to protect her. But can she really trust him? I comment Gray is that guy if you're already falling for him. Comment something's off if you think he's hiding more than he's telling. And subscribe because Ava will soon discover that nothing in this compound, including Gray himself, is what it seems. 3 days into her new life, Ava had learned a few things about surviving in a house full of criminals. First, never make eye contact. These men saw eye contact as either a challenge or an invitation. Neither was good. Second, always know where the exits are. The kitchen had 2, the main door and a service entrance that led to the back garden. She'd memorized the path to both. Third, Gray Laurent was a mystery she couldn't solve. And Lord knows she'd tried. He didn't fit. That was the thing that kept nagging at her, keeping her awake at night. I'd making her watch him when she should have been focused on survival. The other men in the compound moved like predators, loose, cocky, always scanning for weakness. They talked too loud, laughed too hard, made crude jokes about women and violence like they were competing for some kind of awful award. Gray moved like a ghost, quiet, controlled, every step deliberate, every word chosen with precision. He never raised his voice, never laughed at the crude jokes, never participated in the casual cruelty that seemed to be these men's favorite pastime. And he watched everything. Ava had caught him more than once. Those gray eyes tracking conversations he pretended not to hear, filing away information like a man building a case. The morning of day 4 started like the others, and Ava woke at 5 a.m., old habits from the bakery, and slipped out of bed while Gray's breathing was still deep and even. She'd learned that if she moved quietly enough, she could be dressed and gone before he stirred. She didn't examine why that mattered, just accepted that his eyes on her first thing in the morning did something to her chest she didn't want to name. The kitchen was her sanctuary. Here, surrounded by flour and butter and the familiar rhythm of kneading dough, she could almost forget she was living in a criminal compound pretending to be deaf. Almost. By 6 a.m., bread dough was rising in covered bowls. By 7, the first batch of croissants emerged from the oven, golden and perfect. By 8, men started drifting in, following the smell like hounds on a scent. "Morning, sweetheart," one of them called out, forgetting, again, that she couldn't hear him. Ava didn't react, kept her focus on the dough beneath her hands. In, out, the rhythm of survival. The man, Rodney, she'd learned, walked closer. Too close. His cologne arrived before he did, cheap and aggressive, mixing with the butter and coffee in a way that made her stomach turn. "You know what I like about you?" Rodney leaned against the counter beside her. "You never talk back, never nag, just cook and look pretty." His buddy laughed from the doorway. "Maybe you should only date deaf women from now on, Rod. Might actually keep one around for more than a week." "Shut up, Marcus." Ava's hands kept moving. Don't react. Don't look up. Don't give them anything. Rodney reached out and touched her arm. Every muscle in her body locked. The kitchen disappeared. The smell of croissants disappeared. And everything disappeared except the weight of a hand on her skin. Wrong, unwanted, uninvited. And the memory of another hand, years ago, in a dark hallway in a foster home she'd tried so hard to forget. Don't react. Don't react. Don't. Rod. Gray's voice cut through the panic like a blade. "Hands off." Rodney pulled back immediately. "I wasn't doing anything, just being friendly." "Be friendly from across the room." "She can't hear me from across the room." "Then use sign language. Or better yet." Gray stepped into the kitchen, his massive frame filling the doorway. "Don't say anything at all. Just eat your breakfast and leave." Rodney's jaw tightened. For a moment, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. Resentment, maybe, or wounded pride. Then he grabbed a croissant and walked out without another word. Gray stood there for a moment, watching the doorway like he expected Rodney to come back swinging. When he didn't, Gray turned to Ava. "You okay?" He signed, the movement slow and careful. "Fine," she signed back, though her hands were still trembling. "He startled me. He touched you. It was nothing." Gray's expression said he disagreed. Strongly, but he didn't push. "Coffee?" He signed instead. "Counter. Fresh pot." He poured himself a cup and leaned against the refrigerator, drinking slowly, his presence filling the kitchen without crowding it. And just like that, the other men kept their distance. No more casual touches. No more standing too close. No more comments about how pretty she was, or how nice it must be to have a woman who couldn't talk back. Gray didn't say another word. He didn't need to. The afternoon brought a different kind of tension. By noon, the kitchen was spotless and Ava had run out of things to do. She'd baked bread, made croissants, prepped ingredients for dinner, and scrubbed every surface twice. Now she was just existing. Most of the men had left for whatever business criminals conducted during daylight hours. The compound was quiet, almost peaceful, with only a skeleton crew remaining. Guards on the perimeter, a few guys playing cards in the common room. And Gray. He was in the office at the end of the hall, a converted bedroom filled with papers and computers. The door was closed, but Ava could see movement behind the frosted glass. She shouldn't snoop. Absolutely should not snoop. Snooping was how people got killed in places like this. But curiosity had always been her weakness. It was what had gotten her into this mess in the first place. Taking that shortcut, looking when she should have kept walking. And something about Gray made her need to understand. She walked past the office slowly, her footsteps silent from years of practice. Her eyes stayed forward, but her ears strained toward the door. Voices, low but audible. Ava stopped, pressed herself against the wall. Situation is getting complicated, Gray was saying. Marchetti's suspicious. He's talking about interrogations. A pause. Then a voice she didn't recognize. Older, authoritative, coming through a speaker. A phone call. You need to wrap this up. The girl is a liability. The girl is handled. Is she? Because from where I'm sitting, she's a witness you've now moved into your bedroom. The voice hardened. This isn't like you, Gray. Since when do you let a pretty face compromise an operation? Ava's breath caught. Operation? She's deaf, Gray said flatly. She doesn't hear anything, doesn't know anything, and she's useful. The men are eating better than they have in months. Morale is up. That's not compromise, that's strategy. Strategy. The older man laughed, but there was no humor in it. If that's what you want to call it. What I call it is my business. I've been in this for 14 months, Handler. I know what I'm doing. Handler. The word hit Ava like a punch. Handler wasn't a criminal term. Handler was law enforcement. Handler was what they called the person who managed undercover agents. You have 2 weeks, the voice continued. Maybe less. If the operation isn't wrapped by then, and I'm pulling you out, with or without the evidence we need. Understood. And Gray, whatever's happening with that girl, end it, before it ends you. The call disconnected. Footsteps approached the door. Ava bolted. She made it to the kitchen just as the office door opened, her heart slamming against her ribs, her mind spinning with what she'd heard. Handler. Operation. 14 months. Gray wasn't a criminal. He was something else entirely. And somehow, impossibly, he'd let her hear that conversation. He couldn't have just carelessly made that call to anyone's hearing. He was hoping she'd hear. The question was, why? That night, sleep was impossible. Ava lay in her bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to Gray breathe. He'd been pretending to sleep for the past hour. She knew the difference now. Nas could tell real sleep from performance by the depth of his breathing. He was waiting. For her to say something, probably. To confront him about what she'd heard. Part of her wanted to demand answers, to understand what was really happening, to know if she was safe or in more danger than she'd realized. But another part, the part that had kept her alive through foster homes and poverty and years of navigating dangerous situations, told her to wait. Watch. Gather more information before showing her hand. You're thinking very loudly. Gray's voice came from the darkness, rough with something that wasn't quite sleep. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. You didn't. I wasn't really asleep. I know. Silence. You've gotten good at telling, he said. I've gotten good at a lot of things. More silence. Or the kind that's stretched and filled with unspoken words. Can I ask you something? Ava finally said. You can ask. Doesn't mean I'll answer. Why are you here? In this compound? With these people? She heard him shift. The bed creaked slightly. Money, he said. That's not true. How do you know? Because you don't spend it. You drive an expensive car, but your clothes are basic. Your room is empty, nothing personal, nothing that says you've made a life here. She paused. You're not staying. You're just waiting. The silence that followed was different, heavier. I'm here because I have to be, he said finally. Because something happened, and this was the only option I had. Ava wanted to push, wanted to tell him she'd heard his phone call, heard him mention a handler. I heard him talk about operations and timelines like a man reporting to a superior instead of a criminal running from the law. But something held her back. Trust was a currency she'd learned not to spend too quickly. Dante, she said instead. The man in the grave. He was part of this too, wasn't he? Gray's breathing changed. Just slightly. Just enough. Yes. You were close. Closer than brothers. What happened to him? The silence stretched so long she thought he wouldn't answer. He was discovered, Gray finally said. Doing something he wasn't supposed to be doing, and they killed him for it. Something like what? Another long pause. Being someone he wasn't. The words hung in the darkness. Being someone he wasn't. Just like Gray was being someone he wasn't? Good night, Ava, Gray said quietly. The conversation was over. But Ava lay awake for hours afterward, turning the pieces over in her mind, trying to make them fit into a picture that made sense. She was close. She could feel it. She just needed a little more. Something is definitely not right with Gray, and Ava is starting to put the pieces together. Comment FBI vibes if you think Gray is undercover. Comment still suspicious if you're not sure what to believe. Like and subscribe because the truth is coming, and it's going to change everything. Day 5 brought chaos. Ava was in the kitchen, elbow deep in bread dough, when shouting erupted from the common room. She froze, didn't turn, couldn't react. She was deaf, remember? But she heard everything. Telling you someone's talking. A voice she didn't recognize, high-pitched with paranoia. The feds knew about the shipment before it left the warehouse. Nobody here is a rat. Milo's voice now, defensive. I'd stake my life on it. Then explain the raid. Explain how they knew exactly where we'd be. Maybe they got lucky. Lucky doesn't cover it. Someone tipped them off. Someone in this compound is feeding information to the feds. Footsteps, getting closer to the kitchen. Ava kept kneading. In, out, in, out. Don't look up, don't react. The door crashed open. She didn't turn. Oh, hey. A hand grabbed her shoulder and spun her around. I'm talking to you. She found herself face to face with a man she hadn't seen before. Tall, thin, with the manic energy of someone who ran on paranoia and too much caffeine. His eyes were wild. His grip was too tight. What do you know? He demanded. Ava stared at him blankly, letting her eyes drift slightly like she was trying and failing to read his lips. She's deaf, you idiot. Milo appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. Can't hear a word you're saying. How do we know she's really deaf? How do we know she's not the rat? Because she's been here a week. The leak's been going on for months. Milo walked closer, his expression bored but watchful. Let her go, Vincent. You're making a fool of yourself. Vincent's grip tightened instead of loosening. Someone's talking. And I'm going to find out who. Then look somewhere else. The deaf girl in the kitchen isn't your problem. How do you know? Because I tested her myself. Snapped my fingers right by her ear. Nothing. Milo shrugged. She's legit. Now let go before Gray finds out you're putting hands on his little project. Vincent's eyes narrowed. His project? She's staying in his room. Everyone knows. He's got a thing for her. Probably keeps him warm. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe he's the rat and she's his handler. The word hit Ava like ice water. Handler. The same word Gray had used on his phone call. You're reaching, Milo said flatly. Gray's been solid for over a year. If he was a rat, Marchetti would be in cuffs by now. Maybe he's playing the long game. Or maybe you're paranoid and need to lay off the blow. Milo jerked his head toward the door. Let the girl go, now. Vincent held on for another moment, long enough to make a point, then released Ava's arm with a shove that sent her stumbling against the counter. This isn't over, he said. Sure it isn't. Vincent stormed out. Milo lingered. His eyes swept over Ava, curious, calculating, like he was solving a puzzle in his head. You know, he said slowly, it's interesting. Gray never showed interest in anyone before. 14 months and nothing. No women, no men, no nothing. He tilted his head. Then you show up and suddenly he's playing White Knight. Makes you wonder. Ava kept her face blank, empty, deaf. Milo smiled. It wasn't friendly. See you around, sweetheart. He walked out. Ava gripped the counter until her knuckles went white. 14 months. Vincent thought Gray might be the rat. And somehow, impossibly, Ava was starting to think Vincent might be right. The next 3 days passed in a blur of tension and pretense. Ava cooked, the men ate, Gray watched, and underneath it all, the compound hummed with paranoid energy. Whispered conversations, suspicious glances, the constant feeling of being watched. Marchetti announced that interrogations would begin at the end of the week. He was calm about it, almost pleasant, which somehow made it worse. The men who'd seemed so confident before now walked on eggshells, everyone watching everyone else for signs of betrayal. And through it all, Ava gathered pieces. She noticed how Gray never joined in the speculation about the rat, how he deflected questions with monosyllables and subject changes, how he disappeared for long stretches and came back looking exhausted in ways that had nothing to do with physical labor. She noticed how he positioned himself between her and any man who got too close, how he appeared in doorways just when she needed him, how his gray eyes tracked her across rooms like she was the only thing worth looking at. She noticed, and she filed it away, and she waited. Which is how, on the night before Marchetti's interrogations were scheduled to begin, she found herself wide awake at 2 a.m., listening to Gray make another phone call. This time, she was certain he knew she was awake, and this time, she was certain he wanted her to hear. Handler, it's me. His voice was barely above a whisper, but in the silence of the room, every word was clear. Marchetti's locked down the compound. He knows there's a leak. A pause. I understand we need more time. I'm telling you we don't have it. Another pause. If he starts interrogating people, really interrogating, someone will break. Someone always does. Longer pause. The girl isn't a problem, she's... He stopped, started again. She doesn't know anything. And even if she did, she's not the type to talk. Silence. I'll figure it out, just give me 48 hours. The call ended. For a long moment, nothing moved. Nothing breathed. Then, how much did you hear? Ava didn't pretend to be asleep. Enough. Gray stood. She heard him cross the room, heard the soft click of the lock engaging on the door. Then his footsteps returned, stopping at the edge of her bed. We should talk, he said. Yeah, we should. He sat on the edge of her mattress, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Ask your questions, he said quietly. Who's Handler? My contact at the FBI. The words landed like stones in still water. You're a cop. Undercover for the past 14 months. Ava exhaled slowly. So when you caught me in that alley, I couldn't let them kill you. You were an innocent witness. He paused. But I also couldn't let you leave. If you'd gone to the police, reported what you saw, it would have complicated things. 14 months of work. Gone. So bringing me here kept you alive and kept my operation intact. His voice was steady, but she could hear the undercurrent of something else. Regret, maybe. Or guilt. I know how that sounds. I know it makes me seem calculating. Yes. Manipulative? That too. Ava was quiet for a moment, processing. She should be angry, should feel used, played, like a pawn in someone else's game. But mostly what she felt was relief. He wasn't a criminal. He wasn't a monster. He was a man trying to do something good in an impossible situation. Dante, she said. He was undercover too. Special Agent Daniel Torres, my partner, my best friend. Gray's voice cracked slightly. We were embedded together, building a case against Marchetti, wire fraud, racketeering, murder, everything. We were so close. What happened? Someone made him. We still don't know who or how. They grabbed him in the middle of the night and then… He stopped. They made me bury him. He wouldn't give up any information till he passed, refused to share who else was in on it. He protected me with his life. Ava's chest ached. That's why you were crying that night. I tried not to. His voice cracked. They just assumed it was because we were roommates and I felt betrayed. I'm sorry. Don't be. It's not your fault. He exhaled slowly. But that's why I'm still here. That's why I can't leave until this is finished. Dante died for this case. I won't let his death be for nothing. So, what's the plan? Marchetti keeps records, account numbers, transaction histories, everything we need to take him down. It's on a flash drive in his office. I've seen it. Gray's jaw tightened. I need to copy it without him knowing. Not once I have that, we can move. The Bureau will coordinate a raid and this whole thing comes down. And me? What happens to me? You'll be extracted before the raid. New identity, relocation package, protection until the trial is over. He paused. You'll be safe, I promise. Safe. The word should have been comforting. It wasn't. One more question, Ava said. Go ahead. The phone call I overheard, the first one. You were talking loud enough for me to hear on purpose, weren't you? Gray was quiet for a long moment. Yes. Why? Because I was tired of lying to you. Because you deserved to know. And because… He stopped, seemed to struggle with something. Because I wanted you to see me. The real me. Not the mask I've been wearing for 14 months. Something shifted in Ava's chest. Something warm and dangerous. Oh, your real name? She said. What is it? Eric. Eric Jones. Eric. She tested the name. That suits you better than Gray. Does it? Yeah, Gray is cold, distant. You're not cold. He laughed softly. I've been told I'm terrifying. You are, but not cold, she paused. Not to me. The silence that followed was different, charged. Ava, don't. She didn't know what she was refusing. His words, his proximity, the electricity crackling between them. Just, not yet. I need time to process this. Okay. He stood, moved back to his bed. Good night, Ava. Good night, Eric. She heard him settle onto his mattress, heard his breathing slowly even out, and she lay there in the darkness, her mind spinning, her heart racing, wondering what the hell she was supposed to do with any of this. Gray, Eric, just revealed everything. He's FBI, he's been undercover for 14 months, and he let Ava hear that phone call on purpose because he wanted her to know the truth. Comment, I knew it if you saw this coming. Comment, my jaw dropped if you didn't. And subscribe because this story is rushing towards the finale. After that night, everything was different. The dynamic between them shifted in ways both subtle and seismic. During the day, they maintained their cover. Ava, the deaf cook, Eric, the intimidating enforcer. They kept their distance, barely acknowledged each other in front of the others. But at night, in the darkness of their shared room, walls came down. Eric told her about growing up in New Orleans, about his father, a cop killed in the line of duty when Eric was 15, about joining the Marines after high school, then the FBI. Yes, about choosing undercover work because he wanted to make a real difference, not just push papers. Ava told him about her grandmother, about culinary school and the dreams she'd had to abandon, about the years of working double shifts, of counting every penny, of surviving on stubbornness and spite. They didn't touch. Not once. Eric never reached for her, never invaded her space, never did anything that might make her uncomfortable. But sometimes, when they were talking in the dark, she'd feel him shift closer. Not enough to touch, just enough to feel present, connected. And slowly, she found herself waiting for those moments, looking forward to them, which was terrifying in its own way. On day 9, everything almost fell apart. Ava was pulling a tray of pain au chocolat from the oven when the kitchen door slammed open hard enough to bounce off the wall. She didn't react, couldn't react, but her heart rate spiked when she recognized Milo's voice. New orders. Marchetti wants everyone in the common room. Now. Ava kept her back turned, sliding the pastries onto a cooling rack. Milo walked closer. Too close. Hey, deaf girl. He grabbed her arm. Move. Before Ava could react, before she could even flinch, Eric was there. He grabbed Milo's wrist and twisted. Not enough to break, but enough to hurt. Milo hissed in pain and released her. I've told you before, Eric said quietly, his voice like ice over steel. Hands off. She needs to come to the meeting. Then sign to her. I don't grab. They stared at each other for a long moment. Milo's eyes full of resentment, Eric's face carved from stone. Then Milo stepped back. Whatever, just get her there. He stormed out. Eric turned to Ava, and she noticed his hand was trembling slightly, not from fear, but from restraint, from the effort of not doing something much worse. You okay? He signed. Fine, what's happening? Don't know yet. Stay close to me. She nodded and followed him out. The common room was packed with every man in the compound, maybe 20 in total, arranged in a rough semicircle around Victor Marchetti. He stood at the center, silver-haired and immaculate, his blue eyes sweeping the room like searchlights. Gentlemen, he said softly, we have a problem. The tension in the room ratcheted up immediately. Someone in this compound is feeding information to the authorities. I don't know who yet. I don't know how long it's been happening. His gaze moved from face to face. But I intend to find out. Ava kept her expression blank, her eyes unfocused. Just a deaf girl who couldn't understand what was happening. But her heart was pounding so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Until further notice, no one leaves. No phone calls, no contact with the outside world. Marchetti's voice remained pleasant, conversational. If the rat reveals themselves voluntarily, I may be merciful. If they're discovered through other means, he smiled. I will not. He didn't elaborate. He didn't need to. Back to work, gentlemen. The crowd dispersed, murmuring anxiously. Ava stayed where she was, waiting for Eric's signal. Thought he touched her elbow. Brief, barely there, and guided her toward the kitchen. Once inside, with the door closed, his composure cracked. We need to move faster, he said, his voice low and urgent. Marchetti knows. He doesn't know who, but he knows. If he starts interrogating people before I can get that drive, what happens? Eric met her eyes. He didn't answer. He didn't need to. That night, sleep was impossible for both of them. Ava lay in her bed, listening to Eric pace the small room, back and forth, like a caged animal looking for escape. Finally, she sat up. Come here. He stopped. What? You're going to wear a hole in the floor. Come sit down. He hesitated. She could feel him weighing the propriety of it, the risk, then walked over and sat on the edge of her bed. Close, but not touching. Now, tell me about Marchetti's office, she said. What do you know? He keeps everything there. The flash drive is on his desk, partially hidden under a stack of files. But he's paranoid, barely leaves the room, sleeps there half the time. When does he leave? Almost never. Eric ran a hand over his face. There's a poker game every 2 weeks. He hosts it for his senior guys. He'd be in the common room for hours during that. When's the next one? Tomorrow night. Ava's mind raced. So, you sneak into his office during the game. It's too risky. If anyone sees me near that hallway, then I'll create a distraction. Eric looked at her sharply. What kind of distraction? I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. She met his eyes. You're not doing this alone anymore, Eric. We're partners now. Something flickered in his gaze. Something warm. Partners, he repeated softly. Partners. He almost smiled. I like the sound of that. The next day passed in a blur of preparation. Ava baked like her life depended on it, because in a way, it did. Croissants, tarts, petit fours, elaborate desserts that would keep the men distracted and focused on the food instead of anything else. Eric went over the plan with her 3 times. Entry points, exit routes, signals, what to do if something went wrong. If you hear G unshots, he said, don't wait for me. Get out through the service entrance and run. There's a road half a mile west. Follow it until you reach the highway. Someone will find you. And just leave you here? If it comes to that, yes. I'm not going to do that. Ava, I said no. She held his gaze. We're partners. That means we get out together or not at all. He stared at her for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. A real laugh, quiet and warm. You're stubborn as hell, he said. So I've been told. It's going to get you killed someday. Maybe, but not today. By the time the poker game started at 9 p.m., everything was in place. The common room had been transformed. Cards, chips, bottles of expensive whiskey arranged on the main table. Marchetti sat at the head, shuffling a deck with practiced ease while his senior men filtered in. Eric was there too, leaning against the wall in his usual spot. His expression was bored, but Ava could read the tension in his shoulders. At 9:15, she made her move. In she entered the common room carrying a massive tray of desserts. The culmination of hours of work, arranged to look almost too beautiful to eat. Food, someone announced. Finally. The men descended like vultures. In the chaos of reaching hands and appreciative sounds, Ava let her eyes drift to Eric. A tiny nod. She turned and walked toward the bathroom, the opposite direction from Marchetti's office. Just a deaf girl going to use the facilities. She counted to 60. Then she slipped down a side hallway. The service entrance, the back garden, the exterior door that led to Marchetti's private quarters. Her hands shook as she tried the handle. Unlocked. Just like Eric had said. She eased inside. The office was dark, quiet, filled with the smell of cigar smoke and expensive leather. And the flash drive was exactly where she'd seen it 3 days ago. Silver, small, half hidden under a stack of files. Ava didn't touch it. That wasn't her job. Instead, she crossed to the window and cracked it open, just a few inches, just enough for Eric to slip through later. Then she left. The whole thing took less than 3 minutes. When she returned to the common room, the poker game was in full swing. No one even glanced at her. She caught Eric's eye. Another tiny nod. Phase 1 complete. Eric made his move at midnight. Ava lay in bed, wide awake, listening to the sounds of the compound settling into sleep. The poker game had ended an hour ago. Guards patrolled outside, but inside, everything was quiet. The window creaked. She held her breath. 10 minutes passed. 20. 30. The window creaked again, but Eric slipped back into the room, silent as a shadow. He crossed to his bed and sat down heavily. Got it? Ava whispered. Got it. And? Everything. She could hear the relief in his voice and the exhaustion. Account numbers, transaction records, names, dates, amounts. Enough to put Marchetti away for 3 lifetimes. So what happens now? Tomorrow I pass the information to Handler. He'll coordinate with the Bureau, set up the raid. Eric exhaled slowly. Within 48 hours, this whole thing comes down. And us? We'll be extracted before the raid. New identities, relocation packages. He paused. You'll be safe. Safe. The word should have been everything she wanted to hear. But Ava's face fell before she could stop it. Eric noticed. Of course he noticed. What's wrong? Nothing, She stopped. I swallowed. Relocation packages. Separate locations. That means she couldn't finish the sentence, couldn't make herself say the words. That means we won't see each other again? Eric's voice was quiet. Is that what you're asking? It's stupid. I know it's stupid. We've known each other less than 2 weeks. It's not stupid. His words cut through her rambling. It's not stupid, Ava. I've been thinking about it too. He was quiet for a moment. Handler will want to separate us. Standard protocol, minimize connections, reduce the chance of anyone tracking you through me. Oh, but there's another option. Ava's breath caught. What option? You could come with me. The words hung in the darkness between them. What? After this is over. And after Marchetti goes down and the trial is finished and I'm finally done being undercover. Eric's voice was rough, uncertain, so different from his usual control. I don't know where I'll end up, don't know what comes next, but if you wanted, you could come with me. Ava's heart was pounding. You're serious. I've never been more serious about anything. We barely know each other. I know. He laughed softly, nervous almost. I know it's crazy. I know we've been thrown together by circumstances, and feelings get confused when your life is in danger, and maybe once this is over, you'll realize you don't actually… Eric, want anything to do with me? And I'd understand that. I really would. But I had to at least ask, because if I didn't… Eric, he stopped. You're rambling, Ava said softly. Yeah, a pause. That's weird. I only ramble when I'm nervous. You get nervous? Around you? Constantly. Something warm bloomed in Ava's chest. Ask me again, she said. What? Ask me to come with you. When this is over, ask me again. Silence. She could hear him breathing, could practically hear him gathering his courage. Ava Ring, when this is over, will you come with me? She smiled in the darkness. Yes? They're going to stay together. Comment finally if you've been waiting for this moment. Comment my heart if you're emotional right now. Like and subscribe because we're not done yet. There's still a crime boss to take down and secrets to uncover. The relief lasted about 3 hours. Just long enough for Ava to fall asleep with a smile on her face, dreaming of futures that didn't involve hiding in criminal compounds. Then everything went sideways. She woke to shouting, loud, angry voices coming from the hallway. Multiple people. And underneath it all, the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Eric was already up, already dressed, his body tense as he listened at the door. What's happening? Ava whispered. I don't know. Stay here. Eric, stay here. He slipped out before she could argue. Ava sat in the darkness, her heart pounding, straining to hear what was happening outside. Voices, Marchetti's, cold and controlled. Someone else, panicked, pleading, and then a sound that made her blood run cold. A G unshot. Silence. Then footsteps. Aren't getting closer. The door burst open. 2 men she didn't recognize stormed in, grabbing her before she could react. She fought, kicked, scratched, bit, but they were too strong. Easy, sweetheart, one of them said. Boss just wants to talk. They dragged her into the common room. Marchetti stood at the center, immaculate as always, not a hair out of place. At his feet, a body lay in a spreading pool of blood. Vincent, the paranoid man who'd accused Eric of being the rat. "Ah," Marchetti said pleasantly when he saw Ava. "The deaf girl. So glad you could join us." Eric stood against the wall, held in place by two guards. His face was blank, but she could see the fear in his eyes. Fear for her, she realized, not for himself. "We've had an interesting night," Marchetti continued. "Vincent here finally admitted what I've suspected for weeks. He's been feeding information to another gang." He nudged the body with his foot. "Was, I should say. Past tense." Ava kept her face blank. Deaf. She couldn't understand any of this. "But here's the thing." Marchetti walked closer to her. "Vincent claimed there's another rat. Someone bigger, someone working with authorities." His blue eyes studied her face. "He said it was Gray." Eric didn't move, didn't react. "I didn't believe him, of course. Gray has been loyal for 14 months. Never a hint of trouble." Marchetti stopped directly in front of Ava. "But then I got to thinking. Gray brings in this girl, this witness he should have eliminated, and suddenly my operation springs leaks. Coincidence?" Ava stared past him. Through him. Deaf. I'm not a believer in coincidences." Marchetti reached out and grabbed her chin, forcing her face toward him. "So I'm going to ask you a question, pretty girl, and you're going to answer honestly, or things are going to get very unpleasant." His grip tightened. "Can you actually hear me? Or is this all an act?" Marchetti's fingers dug into Ava's chin hard enough to bruise. "I asked you a question," he said pleasantly, his blue eyes cold as Arctic ice. "Can you hear me? Or is this all an act?" Ava stared through him, kept her expression confused and scared. Her breathing was ragged and her heart was trying to crack through her ribs. "Deaf," she reminded herself. "You're deaf. You can't understand him. You don't know what's happening." Marchetti studied her face for a long moment. Then he smiled. "Let's test that. Shall we?" He released her chin and turned to one of his men. "Bring me the K-knife." Ava didn't react, didn't flinch, didn't let her eyes track the movement as one of the guards pulled a hunting K-knife from his belt and handed it to Marchetti. "You can't hear them. You don't know what's coming. Stay blank. Stay deaf." Marchetti turned the knife over in his hands, letting the blade catch the light. "You know what I love about knives?" he said conversationally. "They're honest. Guns are quick, impersonal. But a knife? A knife takes commitment. You have to mean it." He walked toward her slowly. "If she's really deaf, she won't flinch, won't see this coming." He raised the knife. "And if she's lying?" The blade flashed toward her face. Every instinct screamed at Ava to move, to duck, to protect herself. But she forced her body to stay still, her eyes to stay unfocused, her expression to stay blank. The knife stopped an inch from her cheek. Marchetti laughed. "Impressive. Either she's genuinely deaf, or she's got nerves of steel." He lowered the knife. "But I'm not convinced yet." "Boss?" Eric's voice came from across the room, calm, controlled, despite the two guards holding him in place. "This is pointless. The girl is deaf. I tested her myself before I brought her in." "Did you?" Marchetti turned to face him. "And how exactly did you test her?" "Snapped my fingers by her ear, dropped a pan behind her, had someone shout her name when she wasn't looking. Nothing. Not even a flinch." Eric's expression was stone. "She's deaf. She's also the best cook we've had in 3 years. Aka illing her because Vincent made accusations in a desperate attempt to save his own skin would be a waste." Marchetti considered this. "Vincent was very convincing," he said slowly. "Said the girl is your contact. Vincent was a cokehead and a paranoid who'd say anything to make the pain stop." Eric's voice was flat. "I've been with you 14 months, boss. 14 months of doing whatever you needed done, never questioning, never hesitating. If I was a rat, you'd be in prison by now. Maybe. Or maybe you've been playing the long game. Marchetti walked toward Eric, the knife still dangling loosely in his hand. You know what I've noticed about you, Gray? You're different from the others. Smarter. More controlled. You don't drink too much. Don't run your mouth. I don't make mistakes. I thought those were good qualities. They are, for a professional. Marchetti stopped directly in front of him. But they're also good qualities for a mole. The tension in the room was suffocating. Here's what's going to happen, Marchetti continued. We're going to have a little conversation, just you and me, and you're going to convince me that Vincent was lying. And if I'm not convinced, he glanced at Ava. The deaf girl pays the price for your silence. Eric's composure cracked. Just for a second, a flash of something raw and desperate in his gray eyes. But Marchetti caught it. Interesting, Marchetti murmured. You care about her. That's unexpected. She's useful. She's more than useful. You look at her like... Marchetti laughed. Oh, this is rich. The stone-cold enforcer has a weakness. After 14 months, you finally have something to lose. He turned to his guards. Take them both to the basement, separately. I want to see how talkative Gray becomes when he hears the girl screaming. Ava just survived a K-knife test, but now Marchetti is taking them both to the basement. Comment, stay strong if you're praying for them. Comment, it's about to go down if you can feel the storm coming. Like and subscribe because this finale is going to be wild. The basement was exactly what Ava had expected. Concrete walls, dim lighting, the smell of rust and bleach and something else she didn't want to identify. Industrial shelving lined one wall, filled with tools that had clearly been used for purposes other than construction. Two guards shoved her into a metal chair and zip-tied her wrists to the arms. Eric was dragged to a chair across the room, far enough that they couldn't touch, close enough that they could see each other. Marchetti descended the stairs slowly, taking his time, savoring the moment. Comfortable? He asked pleasantly. Neither of them answered. Here's how this works. Marchetti pulled up a chair and sat facing Eric, his posture relaxed, almost friendly. You tell me the truth, and the girl walks out of here unharmed. You lie and... He gestured to one of the guards. Franco gets creative. Franco grinned. He was missing several teeth. Your choice, Gray. Start talking. Eric met Ava's eyes across the room. In that moment, something passed between them. A conversation without words. And she saw him make a decision. The truth? Eric said quietly. The truth. All right. Eric straightened in his chair. My name isn't Gray Laurent. It's Special Agent Eric Jones, FBI. I've been undercover in your organization for 14 months, building a case that will put you away for the rest of your miserable life. The room went dead silent. Marchetti's expression didn't change. If anything, he looked almost pleased. Keep going. Dante, Daniel Torres was my partner. You killed him when his cover was blown, made me bury him like a dog. Eric's voice was steady, but Ava could see the pain flickering behind his eyes. I've been waiting 14 months for this, for the chance to watch them slap cuffs on your wrists and drag you out of here. And the girl? Civilian. Wrong place, wrong time. She has nothing to do with this. Whatever you want to do, do it to me. Ava's heart clenched. Now Eric was laying everything about the operation in the open so Marchetti could focus his rage on him alone. He was protecting her, again. Marchetti nodded slowly, like a teacher pleased with a student's answer. See, here's the thing, Agent Jones. He leaned forward. I've suspected you for a while. Little things that didn't add up. The way you watched people. The way you never got too drunk or too sloppy. The way you asked questions that went a bit too deep. He smiled. But I wasn't sure, not completely, so I waited. I watched. And eventually, your partner got sloppy and confirmed what I already suspected. Dante didn't tell you anything. Not with his words, no. But when a man is dying, his body tells the truth even when his mouth stays shut. Marchetti's smile widened. They said he kept looking at you, right up until the end. Kept looking at you like he was apologizing. Eric's jaw tightened. So, I knew one of you was the mole. I just had to figure out which one. Marchetti stood, stretching like this was a casual meeting and not an interrogation. Killing Dante was a gamble. 50-50 chance I got the right one. But you stayed. You buried him like I told you to. You kept working like nothing had happened. He laughed. I thought maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe you really were loyal. I had a job to finish. Yes, you did, and you almost pulled it off. Marchetti reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver object. A flash drive. Ava's stomach dropped. Imagine my surprise, Marchetti said pleasantly. Marin, seems one of my loyal employees noticed some unauthorized access to my office last night and decided to do some digging. Eric's face went pale. Everything you copied is right here. All my account numbers, my transaction records, my contacts. Marchetti tucked the drive back into his pocket. I've already moved everything. Changed the codes, closed the accounts. Whatever evidence you thought you had, it's worthless now. For the first time since Ava had known him, Eric looked defeated. So here's my question, Agent Jones. Marchetti crouched in front of Eric's chair, bringing them eye to eye. Was it worth it? 14 months of your life, your partner's death, all for nothing? Eric didn't answer. That's what I thought. Marchetti stood. Franco. Start with the girl. Franco moved toward Ava with the slow confidence of a man who'd done this before. She forced herself to breathe, forced herself to think. Wait. Eric's voice was sharp. Wait, she doesn't know anything. She's not FBI, she's a civilian, a cook. She can't give you anything useful. I know. Marchetti didn't turn around. But hurting her will give me something useful from you. Your pain. I've already told you the truth. You've told me facts, but you haven't told me everything. Marchetti glanced over his shoulder. Like the extraction plan. Like when your bureau friends are expecting to hear from you. Like how many agents are watching this compound right now. There's no extraction. The operation's blown. They'll pull back, regroup, try again in a few years. Maybe. Yeah, or maybe they're planning to raid this compound within the next 12 hours. Marchetti smiled. Only one way to find out. Franco reached Ava's chair. His hand closed around her arm. Everything inside her went cold. Went blank. Went somewhere else. Somewhere safe. Somewhere far from here. Somewhere the hands couldn't reach. Kitchen. Her foster brother's hands on her arms. The hallway dark except for the light spilling from under the bathroom door. His breath hot against her ear. Don't scream. No one cares about you anyway. She hadn't screamed, hadn't cried, had just gone away. Mentally left her body behind like an empty shell. She did that now. Franco was saying something. She couldn't hear what. And then there was Pia pain, sharp and bright along her collarbone. But she was far away, watching from somewhere on the ceiling, undetached from the body in the chair. Eric was shouting, straining against his restraints. The guards struggled to hold him. Stop! Stop! I'll tell you everything! Franco paused, looked at Marchetti. Marchetti raised a hand. I'm listening. The raid is tomorrow, 6 a.m., 30 agents. They're coming through the main gate and the south fence simultaneously. Eric's voice was ragged, desperate. That's everything. That's all I know. Now let her go. Marchetti considered this. See? That wasn't so hard. He nodded to Franco. Step back. Franco released Ava's arm. She was still far away, still watching from the ceiling. The body in the chair didn't feel like hers anymore. Here's what's going to happen, Marchetti said calmly. We're leaving tonight, all of us. By the time your friends arrive tomorrow, this compound will be empty. He walked toward the stairs. You and the girl will stay here. Consider it a gift. I'm not going to kill you. I'm just going to let you watch everything you worked for fall apart. He paused at the bottom of the stairs. Oh, and Agent Jones? If you ever come after me again, if I even hear your name in connection with my business, I'll find everyone you've ever cared about and I'll kill them slowly, starting with her. He climbed the stairs. The guards followed. The basement door slammed shut, and they were alone. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Ava was still floating somewhere near the ceiling, watching the woman in the chair with detached curiosity. There was blood on her shirt. Not much. Just a thin line along her collarbone where Franco's K-knife had traced. Ava. Eric's voice came from far away. Ava, look at me. She didn't want to look at him, didn't want to come back to her body. Coming back meant feeling the pain, the fear, the memories. Ava, please. Something in his voice, the desperation, the tenderness, pulled her back. She blinked. The basement came into focus. Eric was staring at her, his gray eyes wild with fear. Are you okay? Talk to me. Her voice came out as a croak. She swallowed and tried again. I'm fine. You're not fine. You were gone. You checked out. I do that sometimes. When things get bad, I just go somewhere else. Eric's expression cracked. I'm sorry. God, Ava, I'm so sorry. I should have. You told them everything. You gave up the operation for me. I saved your life. You compromised everything you've been working for. I saved your life? Again. Eric held her gaze. I won't apologize for that. Ever. Silence. Then, I'm going to get us out of here. How? We're both tied to chairs. I've got a knife in my boot. They didn't search me properly, too focused on the drama. Eric shifted in his chair, straining against the zip ties. If I can get my leg high enough. Ava watched him contort his body, reaching, stretching. His face was red with effort, veins standing out on his neck. Finally, his fingers closed around something. Got it. 3 minutes later, he was free. He crossed the room in 2 strides and dropped to his knees in front of her chair. Hold still. The knife sliced through her restraints. The moment she was free, her hands flew to her collarbone, pressing against the cut. Let me see. Eric gently moved her hands aside. I was examining the wound. It's shallow, won't even scar, but we need to clean it. Later, right now we need to move. The door's locked, so we find another way out. Eric looked at her, really looked, and something shifted in his expression. Wonder, maybe? Or admiration. You're incredible, you know that? I'm practical. There's a difference. Ava stood, ignoring the way her legs shook. Is there a window? A vent? Anything? Eric scanned the basement. His eyes landed on something in the corner. There, utility access, should lead to the crawl space under the main building. Then that's our way out. The crawl space was exactly as horrible as Ava had expected. Dark, cramped, full of spiderwebs and things that skittered away from them as they moved. Her collarbone throbbed with every movement, and her knees were already raw from dragging herself across the concrete. But they were moving. They were alive. And ahead, she could see a sliver of light. Almost there, Eric whispered. The access point should come out near the generator room. From there, we can... He stopped. What? Voices, multiple, coming this way. Ava pressed herself flat against the ground, hardly breathing. Footsteps overhead, shouting, the sound of engines starting. They're evacuating, Eric said quietly. Marchetti's running. Can we stop them? Not from down here, but if we can get to the communication equipment, I can contact Handler, get the raid moved up. Then let's go. They kept crawling. The light grew brighter. The access point was just ahead, a metal grate set into the floor of what sounded like an empty room. Eric reached up and pushed. The grate didn't budge. "Locked from the other side," he muttered. "Of course it is. Can you break it?" "Maybe, but it'll make noise." "They're all focused on evacuating. They won't hear." Eric positioned himself beneath the grate, braced his shoulders, pushed. Metal groaned, then snapped. The grate flew off and clattered across the floor above. Eric pulled himself up first, then reached down to help Ava. She took his hand without thinking. His grip was warm and strong, and for just a moment, just one moment, she let herself feel safe. Then they were both standing in the generator room, surrounded by humming machinery, and it was time to move. Meanwhile, in New Orleans, two people were about to make a decision that would change everything. Miss Alice slammed her hand on Marcus's desk hard enough to rattle his coffee cup. 2 weeks, she said. 2 weeks and nothing. No calls, no texts, no sign of her anywhere. Marcus leaned back in his chair, rubbing his eyes. He hadn't been sleeping well. Neither of them had. "The police aren't doing anything. They say she's an adult. She's allowed to disappear if she wants to." His voice was bitter. Like Ava would ever just disappear without telling anyone. She wouldn't. Alice crossed her arms. That girl was barely surviving, but she never missed a shift. Never went anywhere without telling someone. Something happened to her. The man in the black car. The man in the black car. They'd been over this 100 times. The mysterious stranger who'd waited outside the diner for hours. And the way Ava had seemed terrified but refused to call the police. The way she'd walked out at the end of her shift and vanished into thin air. "I talked to my nephew again," Alice said. "The detective. He ran the plates like I asked, but they came back fake. Registered to a shell company that doesn't exist. So it's organized, not just some random creep." "That's what I'm thinking." Alice sank into the chair across from Marcus's desk. "I'm scared, Marcus. Really scared." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer and pulled out a folder. "I've been doing some digging of my own," he said. "Called in some favors from my army days. Old friends who ended up in interesting places." "What did you find?" "The car, the SUV that took Ava, was spotted on a traffic camera heading out of the city. Not toward the bayou." He pulled out a grainy photograph. "About an hour outside New Orleans, there's a compound. Private property registered to a real estate holding company that traces back to a man named Victor Marchetti." Alice's eyes widened. "Marchetti? As in, yeah, that Marchetti, the one the feds have been trying to nail for 20 years. Oh my God. It gets better." Marcus pulled out another photo. "This was taken 3 days ago by a friend of a friend who does freelance surveillance work. Look at the corner." Alice squinted at the image, and her heart stopped. There, barely visible in the background, was a woman carrying a tray of food toward a large building. Ava. "She's alive," Alice breathed. "She's alive. But she's in trouble." Marcus closed the folder. The question is, what do we do about it?" "We call the police." "The local police can't touch Marchetti. He's got too much protection." "Then the FBI." Alice stared at him for a long moment. Then she grabbed her purse. "I'll drive. Miss Alice and Marcus are coming to help. Comment Rescue Squad if you're cheering them on. Comment This is crazy if you think they're in over their heads. Subscribe because everything is about to collide." Back at the compound, chaos reigned. Ava and Eric moved through the shadows, using the evacuation confusion as cover. Men ran everywhere, loading vehicles, shouting orders, too focused on getting out to notice two figures slipping between buildings. "Communication room is in the main building," Eric whispered. "Second floor, east wing." "That's where Marchetti's office is." "Yeah, on security will be lighter now. Everyone's focused on the evacuation." Or it'll be heavier because that's where Marchetti is. Only one way to find out. They moved. The main building was surprisingly empty. Most of the guards had been reassigned to help with the evacuation, leaving only a skeleton crew to protect Marchetti. Eric took out the first guard with brutal efficiency. A chokehold from behind, lowering the unconscious body silently to the floor. The second guard never saw them coming. By the time they reached the communication room, Ava's heart was pounding so hard she could barely think. "Watch the door," Eric said. "I'll make the call." Ava positioned herself by the entrance while Eric moved to the radio equipment. "Handler, this is Jones. Priority Alpha. Repeat, Priority Alpha." Static. Then a voice. "Jones? Thank goodness, we thought you were dead. Some people showed up here about a missing girl, Ava. That's the girl you're with, right? Are you safe? Is she safe?" "Yes, for now." But Marchetti knows. He's evacuating the compound now. If you don't move in the next 30 minutes, he's gone. The raid isn't scheduled until... I know when it's scheduled. I'm telling you, we don't have that long. Move now or lose him forever. A pause. "Copy that, Jones. Teams are mobilizing. ETA 20 minutes. Make it 5. Eric ended the transmission. "They're coming?" Ava asked. "They're coming." Relief flooded through her. "So we just have to survive 15 minutes. 14 now. Then let's find somewhere to hide and..." Well. Ava's blood froze. Marchetti stood in the doorway, flanked by Franco and 2 other guards. His expression was almost amused. "I thought I told you to stay in the basement." Eric moved in front of Ava. "It's over, Marchetti. The FBI's already on their way. Look, you're done." "Am I?" Marchetti pulled out a gun. 15 minutes is a long time, Agent Jones. A lot can happen in 15 minutes. He raised the weapon. "Starting with this." The next few seconds happened in slow motion. Eric lunged toward Marchetti. Franco moved to intercept. The gun fired, once, twice, and somewhere behind them, glass shattered. Ava dropped to the floor, covering her head, as chaos erupted around her. Then, sirens, not in the distance, right outside, getting closer, and something else. Voices, amplified by megaphones. "FBI, everyone down, FBI." The raid was early. Someone, maybe Handler, maybe someone else, had pushed up the timeline. Marchetti's face contorted with rage. "No!" He fired again, wild now, desperate. But his guards were already running, already abandoning him. Then Eric tackled him from the side. They hit the ground hard, the gun skittering away across the floor. Eric's fist connected with Marchetti's face once, twice, 3 times. "This is for Dante." A 4th blow. "This is for Ava." A 5th. "And this is for every person you've ever hurt." He raised his fist for another strike. "Eric." Ava's voice cut through his rage. "Eric, stop. He's done." Eric froze. Beneath him, Marchetti was barely conscious, his face a bloody mess. For a long moment, Eric didn't move. Then, slowly, he lowered his fist. "It's over," Ava said softly. "It's finally over." "Marchetti is down. The FBI is here." Comment justice if you've been waiting for this moment. Comment Eric snapped if you're shook by what just happened. Subscribe because we're not done. The aftermath is coming, and it's going to be emotional. The next hour was a blur of agents and questions and medical personnel. Ava sat on the back of an ambulance while a paramedic cleaned the cut on her collarbone. It stung, but she barely noticed. Her mind was somewhere else entirely. Watching Eric. He stood across the compound talking to a cluster of agents in FBI windbreakers. His expression was exhausted but relieved. Every few seconds, his eyes would find hers across the distance, checking on her, making sure she was still there. "Ava!" The voice came from somewhere behind the police tape. Ava turned, and her heart nearly stopped. Miss Alice was pushing through the crowd with Marcus right behind her. They looked exhausted, disheveled, like they'd driven through the night. Miss Alice? Marcus? Asa, how did you? Miss Alice reached her first, pulling her into a hug so tight it hurt. Don't you ever do that again, Alice said fiercely. Don't you ever disappear like that again. I thought you were dead. I'm sorry. Ava hugged her back. I'm so sorry. I couldn't contact anyone. It doesn't matter. You're alive. That's all that matters. Marcus hung back, but his eyes were suspiciously bright. We drove all night, he said gruffly. Had some intel about this compound. We went to the FBI. You came for me. Ava's voice cracked. You actually came for me. Of course we came for you. Alice pulled back, her hands on Ava's shoulders. Your family, Ava. Did you think we'd just let you disappear? Family. Ava had thought she didn't have any left. Had thought she was alone in the world. She'd been wrong. 2 days later, Ava sat in a hotel room staring at the wall. The FBI had put her up in a secure location while they processed the aftermath of the raid. Marchetti was in custody. Most of his men had been arrested. The evidence Eric had gathered, before Marchetti moved his accounts, had been enough to bring down several associated organizations. It was over. Really, truly over. So why did she feel so empty? A knock at the door. Ava opened it to find Eric standing in the hallway. He looked different out of undercover mode, cleaner somehow, lighter, like a weight had been lifted. Can I come in? She stepped aside. He walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. Handler says the case is solid. Between my testimony and the records we recovered, Marchetti's going away for life. He turned to face her. You'll have to testify eventually, but they'll protect your identity, and after the trial, you'll be free to go wherever you want. Wherever I want. Yeah. Silence stretched between them. You said something, Ava said quietly. Before everything went crazy, you asked if I'd come with you, when this was over. Eric's expression shifted. Hopeful, nervous. She'd never seen him look nervous before. I remember. Is that offer still open? It's always open. He moved closer. But Ava, before you decide, there's things you don't know about me, things I haven't told you. Same goes for me. Then maybe we should talk. She sat on the edge of the bed. He sat beside her, close but not touching. You first, Ava said. Eric was quiet for a moment. I've been undercover for most of my career. 3 years with the Bureau, almost all of it spent being someone else. Before Marchetti, there were other assignments, other identities. I've done things, seen things, that changed me. He paused. I don't know who I am when I'm not pretending to be someone else. I don't know how to have a normal life. And I'm terrified that when you see the real me, you'll run? Something like that. Ava considered this. Your turn, Eric said. She took a deep breath. When I was 17, I lived with a foster family. The words came slowly, dragged up from somewhere deep. They had a son, older. He thought because I was quiet, because I kept to myself, that I was an easy target. Eric went very still. One night, he cornered me in the hallway outside the bathroom. He was stronger than me. I fought so hard, and eventually I got away. But the damage was done. She touched her chest. Not here, not just physically, but here. Her voice cracked. I haven't let a man get close since then. Haven't let anyone touch me. Every time someone tries, I'm back in that hallway, and I can't breathe, I can't think. I just shut down. Eric didn't say anything. That's why I flinch when people touch me. That's why I went away in the basement when Franco... She stopped, swallowed. That's the truth, the whole truth. And if that's too much, If you don't want to deal with that kind of broken... Ava. She looked at him. You're not broken. His voice was fierce. You survived something terrible, and you're still here, still fighting. That doesn't make you broken. That makes you strong. It doesn't feel strong. It never does, but it is. He shifted closer, slowly, carefully, giving her time to pull away. Can I tell you something? She nodded. In the basement, when I saw what Franco was doing, when I saw you check out, go somewhere else to escape the pain, I have never felt rage like that in my life. His gray eyes burned into hers. I would have killed him, without hesitation, without regret, and I would have kept annihilating anyone who tried to hurt you until there was no one left. The intensity of his words should have scared her. It didn't. That's probably not healthy, she said weakly. Probably not. He almost smiled. But it's the truth. Silence. I don't know how to do this, Ava whispered. I don't know how to be with someone, how to let someone in. Neither do I. We're a mess. Yeah, we are. Eric reached out, slowly, so slowly, and let his hand hover near hers. I'm not touching, just offering. But maybe we can be a mess together. Ava looked at his hand, then she reached out and took it. Eric's fingers closed around hers. Warm, gentle, not trapping, just holding. Is this okay? He asked quietly. Yes. And this? His other hand came up, hovering near her face. She could feel the heat of his palm without making contact. Yes. His fingers brushed her cheek. She didn't flinch, didn't shut down, didn't go away. I'm gonna say something, Eric said softly. And I need you to know I mean it. Every word. Okay. I will never touch you without asking first. I will never push you faster than you're ready to go. If you need space, you'll have space. If you need time, you'll have time. And if you wake up one day and decide this isn't what you want... His jaw tightened. I'll let you go. It'll destroy me, but I'll let you go. Ava's eyes filled with tears. Why? She whispered. Why do all that for me? Because in 11 days, you've become the most important person in my life. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Because I've spent 14 months surrounded by darkness, and you're the first light I've seen. Because when I think about the future, for the first time in years, I can actually imagine wanting one. Eric, you don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel the same way. I just needed you to know from the moment my eyes met yours. I felt peace. You're my peace, Ava. Ava stared at him. This man who had saved her life, who had held her hand in the darkness, who had fought for her, bled for her, given up everything he'd worked for because he couldn't stand to see her hurt. I do, she said. You do what? Feel the same way. Something cracked open in Eric's expression. Hope, disbelief, joy, all tangled together. Yeah? Yeah. He leaned closer, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't pull away. Their foreheads touched. Can I kiss you? He whispered. Her heart was pounding. Her hands were shaking. Every instinct screamed at her to run. She didn't run. Yes. His lips brushed hers. Soft, gentle. A question, not a demand. Ava kissed him back. And somewhere deep inside her, a door that had been locked for 9 years finally cracked open. They finally kissed. Comment, I'm crying if you're emotional right now. Comment finally if you've been waiting for this since the moment they met. 6 months later. The bakery was small but perfect. And tucked into a corner of the French Quarter, with exposed brick walls and big windows that let in the morning sun, it had taken 3 months to renovate and 2 more to get the permits. But now, finally, it was ready. AVA's was painted on the window in elegant gold script. Inside, Ava arranged croissants in the display case while Eric swept the floor behind her. "You missed a spot," she said without turning around. "No, I didn't. Over by the window." "That's not a spot. That's character." Ava laughed. It was still strange sometimes. Laughing. Feeling light instead of heavy. Feeling safe instead of scared. But she was getting used to it. Eric came up behind Ava and wrapped his arms around her waist. She leaned back into him automatically. No flinch, no hesitation. Just warmth. "Ready for the big day?" he murmured against her ear. "Ready as I'll ever be." The grand opening was in an hour. The first official day of her dream, finally come true. It had taken time, therapy, nightmares that woke her screaming, and days where getting out of bed felt impossible. There had been setbacks, moments when she'd frozen at a stranger's touch, when the memories had overwhelmed her, when she'd wondered if she would ever really be okay. But Eric had been there, patient, steady, never pushing, never giving up. And slowly, she'd healed. Not completely, maybe not ever completely, but enough. Enough to build a life, enough to let someone in, enough to wake up in the morning and feel something other than fear. "Hey," Eric turned her to face him. "I'm proud of you." "For what?" "For everything, for surviving, for fighting, for being brave enough to try again." He kissed her forehead. "You're the strongest person I know, Ava Ring." "Ava Jones," she corrected. Eric's eyes widened. She held up her left hand, the ring she'd found in his sock drawer that morning, the one he'd clearly been working up the courage to present, glinted on her finger. "I found it while I was looking for my other shoe," she said. "I tried it on. It fit." She grinned. "So I'm keeping it." That's not how proposals work." "It is now." Eric stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a real laugh, full and bright. "I had a whole speech planned." "I'm sure it was very nice." "I was going to take you to dinner." "That sounds lovely." "There were going to be candles." "Candles are overrated." He grabbed her waist and pulled her close. You're impossible. And yet you love me anyway." "Yeah." He kissed her, deep and sure and full of promise. "I really do." Ava and Eric got their happy ending. A bakery, a family, and each other. Comment perfect ending if you loved it. And comment my favorite story if this one captured your heart. Thank you so much for watching. If this story made you feel something, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content like this. Share this with someone who needs to see that healing is possible, that love can be patient. Sometimes the people who seem most dangerous are fighting the hardest battles. And healing doesn't mean forgetting. It means learning to live again despite the scars. Until next time.